The time is officially 9 a.m.
Okay, let's all stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag for which it stands,
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible, and with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Call this meeting to order. Today is July the 21st, the year 2020. Roll call, please.
Director Wilkins,
Present.
Director Smelser,
Present.
Director Tresson,
Here.
Director Lewis,
Here.
and President Cox.
Yes.
We have established a quorum. Everyone present.
First item on the agenda, as always, is public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board on anything not on the agenda, now is the time. Rochelle?
Okay. Let's see here. At this time, I do not have anyone's, oh, I stand corrected. Pippin Mater, you are on the board. Reminder to speak anything not on the agenda, and 5 minutes starting now.
Great. And you guys can hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Thanks, Board of Directors. I wanted to talk a little bit about some historic lab data. Actually, in May, TTSA violated your call form grab sample, but Lahontan actually allowed you to pull another sample and average the two results. And I had some pretty substantial concerns with that, right? The nature of a grab sample is that it's random. And that if you're allowed to pull multiple samples, that would actually be a composite sample, which is kind of a different animal. And for those of you that don't have a background in random sampling, it's a powerful way to estimate true results without having to measure all the possible results. That's why people use it, right, when they want to project election results without, getting everyone's input, and why your permit has it, because they didn't feel it was necessary for you to measure the call form in your effluent all the time. But when a sample is no longer random, it kind of becomes meaningless. It's kind of akin to if you're pulled over by a cop for going 85 on the freeway and then tried to argue that you should get to, recheck your speed a mile down the road and average the two results together. And that's exactly what happened here. The two results got averaged together. And I guess as a member of the public who recreates in the Truckee River, I'd like to know how many other times this has happened. The second thing I'd like to bring up is that I assume everyone already knows this, but TTSA has fired another employee this week. It seems that the current management gets some kind of 14-month itch and has to fire another person no matter what. I don't know if this is a deal where management can only get the respect that they want if they show their power and fire someone to remind staff that they can, or if they just methodically going down a list of enemies, or what is happening. But it's unlike anything I've ever heard of, except maybe what's happening at Truckee Donner PUD. But I don't know the details, and I suspect that the person will choose early retirement versus continuing to fight for their right to work, especially considering that the board is clearly willing to back these decisions to fire people with millions of dollars worth of legal fees. Now that the turnover rate is nearly 90% since LaRue began, this really begs the question, right? Either TTSA employees are some of the worst around, and 9 out of 10 need to be let go, or there's a leadership issue. I feel like good leadership motivates people to be the best versions of themselves, but this is not what's happening. I would say that LaRue does appear to be motivating, but for almost all employees, he is demotivating. He's motivating everyone to be their worst selves. I encourage you as board members to be the leadership that TTSA needs and to lead by example. Thank you.
Thank you, Pippin. And next up, we have Jane Davis. Go ahead, Jane.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. Good morning. My name is Jane Davis. Last month's meeting, Mike Peak gave his report and he told you that all plant waste discharge requirements were met for the month. What he didn't tell you was that
Oh, Jane, we lost you. Jane, you cut off. We cannot hear you at all.
I don't even see her as a participant either, Rochelle.
I do show she's still there, but I can't hear her at all. And she still has permissions. Everything is there, but I don't hear her at all. Jane? Yeah, it shows her microphone has no output. She is unmuted. I don't know what happened, but we lost connection with her. Okay, that's it. We have no other public comment.
Okay, sorry for the audio confusion here, board members, but we must move on. Let's talk about the professional achievement and anniversaries. Vicki?
Good morning, Director, President Cox and directors. I would like to discuss professional achievements, awards, and anniversaries for this month. And first up is our new employee, Saraja Badoutenwars. She's the new CMMS GIS technician in the maintenance department. And I would normally have her introduce herself now, but she's out performing her civic duty today, so she cannot join us. So maybe we'll chat with her next time. Also have safety suggestion awards for the second quarter of 2021. And I'm just going to call out some names as those that had made safety suggestions that were accepted by the safety committee. And those are Paul Schaus, Jesus Zarate, Dean Haynes, Anthony Salinas, and Ryan Schultz, excuse me. And then last but not least, we have a 5-year anniversary, and that is for Chuy Sarate in July. And just want to congratulate all those employees. Welcome, Saraja. Thank you to the employees that made the safety suggestions, and congratulations to Chuy for his 5-year anniversary. Thank you.
Okay, I also, Vicki, would like to chime in as far as for the safety awards. I want to congratulate the 5 contributors to the safety awards in making this agency a safer place. We appreciate your dedication and your willingness to contribute. So moving on, the consent agenda. Items 1 through 5. Any discussion?
Yeah, for me.
Or do we accept the consent calendar as is?
We got a comment from Director Smeltzer.
As soon as I find it, I'm working.
I also saw Blake raise his hand.
Do you want to let Blake go while we
Go ahead, Blake.
Thanks, Dale. On page 26 of the packet, the general fund revenue and expenditure table, there is, at the bottom of that, there's a row that indicates unfunded accrued liability, has a budget, a month. I'm just curious if I could get an explanation of what that row means.
Did you want to address that, Crystal?
Yes, sure. That row is just the information on the payments that we paid for the unfunded accrued liability this year, including the 2 additional payments, that discretionary payments that were approved.
So we've made, so it shows the monthly payments of $3.6 million. Is that accurate that we, in the
That's
month of June?
That's the year to date. I apologize for that. That is the year to date number. The $3.6 million is the year to date number.
Okay, and these are required payments against unfunded accrued liability in addition to our additional discretionary payment that we made last month?
We made 2 additional discretionary payments this year. Last month was the last of the 2 of the 1.3 million. And it also includes the required payment,
Okay,
the annual
Thank you.
required payment.
okay, that makes sense.
To further clarify, Blake, the 3.6 was originally budgeted at the beginning of the fiscal year. At that time, prior to Crystal, so she's not aware of this, we decided to make the first required payment and decided to come back at a later date to make the second additional payment, which we did last month. So you're correct. When you look under the monthly amount, it should not reflect the 3.6 million because that implies that we paid 3.6 million the last month, which wasn't the case. It was the amount that was approved, the amounts escapes me right now. So yeah, there is an error there.
And those are expenditure numbers, monies we've put towards that. They're not, it's below the net income, which is revenue minus expenditure, but those are expenditure numbers.
That is correct.
Okay. Thanks. I had an additional question, Dave, if you don't mind. I'll go ahead. On the very next page, 27, the Fund 2, Wastewater Capital Reserve. There's a new project that showed up from last month, the control room upgrades 2 and 13. It looks like approximately $2,000 expended towards that. I'm just curious as to what that project is. I maybe have just forgotten, but maybe you could just enlighten us as to what that new capital project is.
Sure. Richard, would you mind addressing that project? Prior to doing so, some of these projects are scheduled for the next calendar year. So as we accrue costs, we do identify it in the current fiscal year. That's why you see these additions. We've been fortunate to be able to start some of these projects sooner than scheduled. So with that, Richard, would you be able to provide some background information on that?
Actually, I'm gonna kick that one to Michael. That's over in his realm.
Yeah, this is a project that was already slated. These funds were, and actually, Jake, correct me if I'm mistaken, because I know engineering has gotten involved in the project. It's an upgrade to the control rooms, and we had to do some testing of materials to ensure that there's no asbestos present, or if there was asbestos present, that would impact the overall cost of the project. So these are just funds that were allocated to do that upfront testing. And we still have a project in place.
To clarify, Michael, that was lead and asbestos testing. And that's what, Blake, that's what those funds are.
Okay. And this is on the, I didn't look ahead to, later in the items, there's a 5-year CIP. This is a CIP project that's on the 5-year plan that you guys just got started early on.
Yeah, the $2,000 was just for the initial testing to know what we're dealing with down there.
Okay. Thank you. I have no other questions on the consent items.
Hey, David?
Yeah, I had a question on, first of all, just a comment about the electric bill. I got a notice for my home that Liberty Energy wants to raise rates 40%. I don't know, did you get that kind of a notice over here?
I'm not aware of any notice.
So maybe it's not just, maybe it's just me that did that. Okay, well, I had mentioned before about looking into solar or whatever alternate possibilities. And if that's true, that they're gonna ask for a 40% raise, I don't think they'll get it, but that's a lot. Anyway, I thought I'd bring it up. The other question I had, which I don't understand, is we had a expenditure in general fund of 4,725,214.59, but allocation to that general fund says here 731,924 or 4,731,924.89. Why is that different?
We're referring to the combined cash investment sheet.
Cash allocation.
And you're looking at the allocation to the general fund, excuse me, $4.7 million.
Right.
So that is the amount of cash we have in that fund balance. That is a fund balance at the end of the year.
Oh, so it's not the same as the amount that actually was spent.
Yeah, no, it's not a reflection of what we spent in that fund for this month. Yes, sir.
I'm good.
Okay, if everyone has had a chance to review these items 1 through 5, and they all are in order, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion to approve.
It's been moved by Director Lewis, seconded by Director Smeltzer. A roll call, please.
Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Smeltzer,
Yes.
Director Tresson,
Yes.
Director Lewis,
Yes.
and President Cox.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Moving along to the regular agenda, the report from the June 16th, 2021 closed session meeting.
Thank you, President Cox. The June 16th board meeting, there was a closed session. At the end of the meeting, it was adjourned without providing a report for that closed session. I'm here to inform you that no action was taken during closed session of that meeting.
Okay, moving along to approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting on June the 16th. This is item 2 in the regular agenda. If everyone has had a chance to review these minutes and find them in order, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
I'll make that.
Been moved by Smeltzer,
Second.
seconded by
Lewis.
Lewis.
Yes.
Roll call, please.
Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Smeltzer,
Yes.
Director Tresson,
Yes.
Director Lewis,
Yes.
and President Cox.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item is public hearing for public comment related to the board's consideration of adopting a resolution of the board to adopt a report on delinquent charges and authorizing their collection on the tax roll.
Yeah, President Cox, Crystal Sutherland will address the next 4 issues as they all apply, the same group. With that, I'll hand it over to Crystal, please.
LaRue, first, we need President Cox to open public comment for these items.
I was
Take
going
public
to,
comment and close it.
yeah, I was going to let Crystal go ahead and do a brief introduction as to what's required and then have her lead that topic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so yes, this is a public hearing to solicit comment on the delinquent charges and collection of those charges through the respective county tax rolls. My recommendation is to open the hearing, receive public comment, and determine if there's a majority public protest. So President Cox, could you please open up public comment to this?
Okay, at this time, we have a public comment open for any of the resolutions on the tax roll being collected from the member districts. As you can see on the agenda, this would be item 4 through item 7.
6.
6.
6.
Okay, at this time, I'll address any public comment from any of the member districts on the collection on the tax roll. Anyone, go ahead, Rochelle.
At this time, we have no public comment related to collection of tax roll from any of the counties.
Okay, at this time, if there's no problems from the board members, I'd like to take these resolutions in order, and if there's no public comment,
We need to close the public hearing component and move to the next agenda item, which would be the adoption of the resolutions.
okay. So we got to close public.
Yeah, so I don't see a majority, any majority protest for our comments back. So with that, I recommend that we close the public hearing.
Counselor? Okay, at this time, I'd like to close public comment, and we'll move for the approval of the resolutions in order, resolutions 4 through 7. 6, correct.
I'll make the motion for approval of resolution number 13-2021.
Okay, then move. We need a second.
I will second.
Okay, go ahead, Blake.
I had just a question. Are these, the magnitude of these delinquent charges consistent with years past? Or is this more due to somehow COVID related?
I can address that, Crystal, since I have a previous experience. You were seeing more of a reduction as we get into the tax roll. So previously we had larger amounts because we were direct billing. Now that we've gone to the tax roll format, you'll see that this will progressively get lesser and lesser through the years.
Thanks, Lou. That's helpful. And just of the, and it looked like there was only a couple dozen total delinquencies. Are those kind of, I'm just curious as to the nature of those delinquencies. Are they just, is there any kind of comment that could be made about the nature of the delinquencies?
I do not have a recollection of the details of the each of the county elections. Crystal, do you have any?
I do not,
Okay.
and I apologize. I would have to pull that information.
I didn't know whether those were, again, business owners that maybe didn't realize they had opportunities to seek COVID aid, or whether they're just folks that just consistently, pay late and let us collect on the tax roll, or what the nature of those were.
Yeah, it could have been Blake. Unfortunately, I don't have that detail, the information in front of me.
Okay.
Other questions? Yeah, I will point out, typically we do have collections delinquencies in 3 counties, so it's promising now that we only have 2. Have you noticed there's none from El Dorado? So I find that as a positive. So with that, I think we did have a motion and a second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve resolution 13-2021. No further questions or comments. Roll call, please.
Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Smelser,
Yes.
Director Tresson,
Yes.
Director Lewis,
Yes.
and President Cox.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Moving along to the approval of resolution 14-2021. If there's no
I'll
further,
move for approval of
Comment.
resolution.
No,
like a motion to approve.
Dale,
Yes.
we're on number 7, approval of resolution number 16.
I think we approved all of it.
I think you said
Oh, we
14.
did, that was a blanket approval?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Then let's go to item number 7.
Yeah, wait a
Resolution
second.
number
When I,
1621.
hold on, Dale. When I made that resolution, I just made it for 13-2021. I could amend it to also 14-2021 and 15-2021.
Okay.
Okay?
A blanket resolution approval for the three items on the agenda. No further questions or comments. Everybody understand what we're doing?
Okay,
Roll call, please.
sure. Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Smelser,
Yes.
Director Tresson,
Yes.
Director Lewis,
Yes.
and President Cox.
Yes.
Thank you.
Let's go on to item number 7. This is resolution 16-21, amending the resolution of 12/2020 concerning employee retirement and health benefit changes.
Yeah, thank you, President Cox. This is more of a cleanup action based on last month's action for the retirement health benefit changes. With that, I'll hand it over to Vicki. She'll be able to provide more information on that.
Thanks, LaRue. Good morning again, President Cox and directors. For those following along, we're on pages 64 to 66. And in September 2020, the board adopted Resolution 12-2020, which approved employee benefits and contained language related to retiree health benefits. Separately, at the June 2020-21 board meeting, Resolution 8-2021 was adopted, which puts into place the retirement vesting schedule, which takes effect on August 1st, 2021, and affects employees hired on or after that date, and also employees hired prior to that date, but only if they elect to be subject to the provisions of Government Code 22893. And just for clarification, wanted to state employees hired prior to August 1st, 2021 may only elect to be subject to the provisions of Government Code 22893 if the employer allows a one-time per year individual election in which employees may choose to become subject to the vesting schedule. Just didn't want any confusion there. So Resolution 16-2021, which is before you today, is intended to amend Resolution 12-2020, Section 2, as it relates to the retiree health care benefit. This new resolution accounts for the changes that were adopted at the June 2021 board meeting. Management and staff recommend approval of Resolution 16-2021, amending Resolution 12-2020 concerning employee benefit changes.
Thank you, Vicki.
You're welcome.
Any questions or comments from the board on the resolution we are about to adopt? This was thoroughly discussed at last month's board meeting, and it's recommended by staff to approve. No further questions, no further comments. Need a motion.
I'll make the motion. Oh, go ahead.
It's been moved by Director Blake and seconded by Director Lane, correct?
Correct.
No further questions or comments. Roll call, please.
Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Smelser,
Yes.
Director Tresson,
Yes.
Director Lewis,
Yes.
and President Cox.
Yes.
Motion
I'd
approved.
just like to say, for all the work Vicki's done on this over the past year, thank you. There's been a lot of hard work, and now to make sure everything is in compliance with this new health benefit situation. So it's a long time coming. Thank you, Vicki.
Thanks, Lane. I appreciate it.
Okay, moving along to item 8, approval of the annual budget for fiscal year 2021 and 2022.
President Cox, Board of Directors, as a follow-up from last month's annual budget discussion about the annual budget, staff has gone back, made some changes, and has brought it back for reconsideration for approval today. With that, I'll have Crystal lead the discussion, identify and review some of the changes.
Thank you, LaRue. Rochelle, I don't know if you can give me sharing authority.
A second.
And I would like to share, and we are going to be starting on page 67. Do I just take it from you?
Yeah, I made you a co-host, so you can go ahead and share your screen.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Oh wait, I need to keep it over here, right?
We can see everything, see your screen, so that's fine.
Okay, perfect.
The PDF, yeah.
So I'm starting on page 67 is the recommendation to approve the updated annual budget. And with your guys' approval, I will just walk through the budget as I did last time, unless you would like me to not.
So I've got a question, Crystal. I thought you did a very thorough job last time of walking us through it.
Sure.
And I don't, at least from my perspective, I'm not sure that I need that detailed presentation again, but maybe if there's any areas that have changed since last time that you want to call our attention to, and you can focus on that.
I can absolutely do that. Is that agreeable to everybody?
Want to hear it again? No. That's okay.
Thank you, Director Wilkins. Any other discussion, questions, or comments in regards to the budget?
Oh, I apologize, President Cox. I think that they were wanting me to go over some of the changes we made.
Okay.
Did I hear that correctly?
Crystal, I don't know if you guys heard, we just briefly discussed it in, as it pertains to Director Schmelzer and President Cox. We're in agreement that we don't have to review the whole entire budget, we just only get the highlights of changes.
Okay.
Since last month's presentation.
And I can do that if you, so I'm going to scroll down through, we made some changes to, I'm going to go ahead and go to the tables that we made changes to, if that works for you guys. So the first change we made was to table 6. Hold on, I apologize. Okay, so within table 6, we updated the projected, well, with everything, we updated the projected current year-to-date actuals with updated numbers as we had updated numbers. And we had a change of $36,000 from prior month for projected actuals and total expenditures. And on table 8, again, we had a minor increase of $5,500. And table 9, we had a reduction of $50,000, and that was related to needing to move budget from the 2020 FY21 TRI digital scanning carried forward because they haven't completed all of the work. So that expenditure will carry forward to FY22. Table 10, we had a minor increase of $8,000 just based off of updated actuals. And then table 11, we had a for the maintenance department, and for the IT department, we didn't have any changes. Well, we had a minor change of $1,100 increase. I apologize for that. So now I'm going to go down to the projected FY22 actuals, or a budget, and we're going to go down to table 14. And table 14, we had a reduction in budgeted revenue. We took a more conservative approach. Is that the right table? More conservative approach with the revenue. And you'll see more detail on table 15. We had a reduction in sewer service charges of $245,000 of the prior year, or the original budget last month. And that's related to taking a 3% increase on a more conservative approach. And then for the ad valorem charges, that was reduced by $98,000 to have a 4% increase there. And then table 19, on the general fund expenditures, we had an overall increase of $545,000 from the prior month presentation. And I'll detail that out as we go through the next tables. And no changes to table 20. Table 21, we had an increase of $100,000 in office expense for IT for additional department software programs. And then we had and that was also related to LIM system and operations system updates and replacements. On table 22, for the engineering expenditures, we had an overall increase from the previous presentation of budget of $215,000. $50,000 in contractual services for the TRI that I was explaining earlier, carry forward of their finalizing their services, and then $175,000 in professional services for review of pretreatment program. And then on down to table 23, maintenance department, we had an increase of $230,000 from the previous board meeting. One thing to note here, I did combine, I look at the right table, I did actually add the IT information to get a better analytics comparison, since they are now part of that department for prior year budget and for FY21 budget and FY21 actuals. So that is something you need to note on this table. The increase is $180,000 in professional services for the IT and SCADA master plan, and then a $45,000 increase in supplies, repairs, and maintenance for the change out of the Ansel foam system, which is our firefighting foam. The shelf life is up. And on down to table, another thing to note is, I might have already passed it. Table 26 just reflects all of the above changes that I just discussed. One thing to note on table 29 is we updated it with the current balance after the $1.3 million additional payment we made in June. Another item to note is the annual payment amount of $1,044,040 for FY22 is what is required. If we make a payment by the end of July, we will only need to make a payment of $1,009,312. So we'll have a savings there. And then table 30 now reflects targeted fund balances. And those are all of the changes. Do you have any questions?
Board member or Crystal?
Excuse me, Crystal, in addition to making changes, there was also change in verbiages to elaborate more on previous notes from the last board meeting. Is that also correct?
That is correct. I apologize.
And they would also match the staples that you updated as well, correct?
Correct.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any further questions? Any questions from the public? Rochelle?
Let's see. At this time, I do not have anyone for public comment regarding the budgets.
Okay, at this time, we're going to approve the annual budget for fiscal year 2021-2022. No further questions or comments. Anyone? Need a motion?
Also moved.
It's been moved by Director Smeltzer.
Second.
I can't see.
Second from Wilkins.
Okay, seconded by Director Wilkins. Roll call, please.
Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Tresson, I'm sorry, Director Smeltzer,
Yes.
Director Tresson,
Yes.
Director Lewis,
Yes.
and President Cox.
Yes.
Motion approved.
We're on
I'd like to, President Cox, I'd like to thank Director Tresson for his thorough analysis last month and bringing a lot of these items up for explanation. Really helped me out with some of these question marks we had here. But thanks, Blake.
Okay, we're on item number 9. Approval of resolution 9-2021 to revise the wastewater capital reserve fund budget and making related findings. Go ahead.
Thank you, President Cox. Crystal, would you also address this item as well, please?
Yes, so resolution number 9 is to inform the board of the revision of the wastewater capital reserve fund budget, identifying the obligations and uses of the money. We recommend that you guys approve, that the board approves resolution number 9.
And to provide some background, it was tabled from last month's meeting, as it usually is approved in accordance with the annual budget.
So moved, Dale.
Okay, it's been moved by Director Treason. Need a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Lewis. No further questions or comments? No further comments from the public? Rochelle,
None, sir.
roll call, please.
Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Smelser,
Yes.
Director Tresson,
Yes.
Director Lewis,
Yes.
and President Cox.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item is approval to award to the audit services.
Thank you, President Cox. As you are aware, the agency went out for RFPs for audit services for the agency's annual financial audits. With that, Crystal, would you provide some background information and address the item, please?
Yes, he will. So TTSA went out for RFP for audit services on April 21st, 2021. We, during that time, received 8 proposals, RFPs by the deadline. I believe that we were waiting for me to get on board to start reviewing those proposals. Michelle and I, the accounting supervisor, we reviewed all 8 proposals. We had a scaling system or a ranking system. We ranked them all independently of each other based off of the RFPs. Then we selected the top 4 based off of those rankings. We interviewed the top 4 RFPs or audit firms. And after interviewing the top 4, we reached out for references on 2 of them. In doing so, we chose, well, after we reached out to the references, Michelle and I and LaRue, we worked together and we chose our top choice, which we are recommending Davis Farr Certified Public Accountants. They have a considerable amount of experience in special districts. The engagement partner, that's his specialty. We really like their audit approach, and especially their first-year audit approach. First-year audits are usually the hardest. They understood current GASB pronouncements, and on top of that, they do templates for any GASB implementations to help out the agency to implement the GASBs correctly. Their references, they gave them high regards. I mean, all the references just couldn't stop talking about them nonstop. I actually asked for an additional reference that was not part of their RFP, and I called them. Their references said that they are a great educational resource for GASB and accounting standard changes, and communicative, timely, and responsive. The engagement partner demonstrated that he is very communicative because he reached out to us prior to us setting up the interviews, after the interviews, very communicative during the interviews. One of the things that stood out during the interview with them is that they were very knowledgeable, but not only that, one of the things that I was looking for is the audit supervisor, to their knowledge and their involvement in addressing the questions that we asked, because they are the person who will be on site the most and who we will be working with the most. And she did a very, very good job in presenting herself. She took initiative in answering a good majority of the questions. And overall, they are the best fit. We feel they are the best fit for our team and our agency. So management recommends that the board approve the award the RFP to Davis Farr.
And again, just as a reminder, the amount and the recommendation of $96,403 is the sum over 3 audits, 3 fiscal years, correct, ma'am?
That's correct. And that is on the table that's within the staff report as well, if you want to see that information.
I'd like to make comment.
Go ahead, Lane.
Yeah, I want to thank the board for this, going through the thorough process you're going through. We've been with Moore and Hamrick for 30 years. They've done an excellent job. I have no complaints, but it's time to have new eyes looking at our audit. I want to thank staff for going out and going out looking for a new audit company. And I've worked with Davis Farr in the past. They're excellent. I don't know about these other ones. I know a couple of the other ones, but I think it's important for TTSA to have new eyes look at our audit, and for the price difference, it's well worth it.
Thanks, Lane. Any comments from the board in regards to awarding our contract to Davis Farr Certified Public Accountants? Go ahead, Blake.
Approving the contract, there is an out clause if for some reason, we're not satisfied with the performance they do during this first year. We're not locked into the full 3 years, right? There is some ability to terminate the contract. It's a 3-year fixed price, but each year we sign a individual contract with them for that year's services. Is that correct? Or are we really locking ourselves in automatically on our side to 3 years?
Well, the RFP is for a 3-year contract, and that was what we requested. So I believe it would be a 3-year contract. We do sign an engagement letter with them every year. And of course, there's always exit interviews. LaRue, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, my impression that this is for the 3 years. We can have negotiations with them to make sure that there is a clause that if their work is subpar or unsatisfactory, that there is a opportunity for us to execute the agreement.
Obviously, I'm hopeful that that would not have to be exercised, but just wanted to make sure, if we're unhappy that, we're not tied in for all 3.
Yeah. Okay, we will make that as part of the requirement.
Thank you, Blake. I think that's a very important point. And LaRue, how, as far as for changing the agreement, are we going to make this a verbal, or is this going to be on paper?
Yeah, it'll be on paper, like Crystal stated. There'll be an engagement letter that's submitted to us. We will be contacting the consultant, let them be aware that they are awarded. We'll let them know that there are some contingencies and provisions in the agreement that we'd like them to have, and that's going to be contingent on the approval. And if they decide that that is not the appropriate, they're unwilling to do that, then we can come back to the next board meeting and award to another consultant. But I have total confidence with this. I think they would understand it. David Farr does come with a good recommendation, so I don't foresee that being a problem.
Dan, are you okay with this?
Yes.
Okay. Shanahan, are we on the right track? Okay, if there are no other questions from the board members in regards to awarding the contract to Davis Farr, at this time, is there any public comment from the public? Rochelle?
At this time, I have no hands raised for public comment.
Okay, if there's no public comment, need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Been moved by Lewis,
Second.
seconded by Treson. Roll call, please.
Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Smelser,
Yes.
Director Tresson,
Yes.
Director Lewis,
Yes.
and President Cox.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item is approval of Logically IT Services Agreement.
Richard, would you mind addressing this item, please?
Absolutely. Good morning, President Cox and Board of Directors. Before the board for approval is the staff is requesting them go forward with a agreement with Logically, a managed service provider for IT services. To give a little background, as with all agencies, we use various IT hardware for conducting the business. Part of that are servers. We have one server that's reached its end of life. So as part of that project, looking to replace that server, we also looked into moving to a managed service provider to provide us with what I'll call routine IT services. We also discussed with them taking on the server replacement. So we reached out to Logically, which is a nationwide company with a local presence in Reno, and they also provide these similar services here in our immediate area. We met with them and discussed a project. They provided proposals for both that we rolled into one report here. The first part of it is the server replacement and spinning up a new server and getting us into a full Microsoft Windows environment. Currently, we use a combination of Google and Microsoft Windows. This will get us over to the industry standard of utilizing Microsoft. Additionally, this will free up our staff to focus on what we call the OT, or operational technology. We most frequently refer to that as SCADA, or supervisory control and data acquisition. And that's what Michael and the operations staff utilize to operate and monitor the facility. Moving forward with this will allow our staff to focus on that. And I want to highlight just the security aspects of this. When we've seen the recent cyber attacks on various facilities, that's the side that they're attacking, is the SCADA side, or the OT side of things. This will allow our staff to focus on making our system more secure, moving forward with the project to provide a complete 100% physical separation from the two systems, so that the best defense is just not to be open to the outside world for them to even be able to get to it. So that's what we're going to move forward with, as well as all the upcoming projects. As you guys know, all the new equipment's becoming more and more technologically advanced. So they come in with their own PLCs or programmable logic controllers on board. All those things are increasing the workload on our OT side of things. This will allow our two staff members to focus on that. We will assign one of them, if approved, to this project, and they'll be what we consider project manager, working closely with Logically, and also be our, what they call, smart hands in the field here. So if something comes up that doesn't require their response, we can locally take care of it working with them. Additionally, on the security side, utilizing Logically gives us 24/7 help desk support. They also offer 24/7 performance monitoring, so they'll be monitoring the servers and seeing where we have issues on a 24/7 basis, as well as 24/7 security monitoring. And I want to highlight that that includes preemptive threat detection. They run a software that actually can preemptively identify threats and isolate the system before the threat even takes place. It also includes security training for all of our staff and an awareness training. So as those phishing emails come in, they'll be able to identify those and increase our security from that standpoint. The server project was budgeted for the next 2 years. So that was anticipated and falls closely in line with the project fees. Between the 2 years, it covers 100% of the cost. All the fees are broken down in the report. I can go over those or leave it for you guys to read and digest them. We did include some contingencies. We do anticipate as the project takes place, there's going to be unforeseen things as they come in and start getting things spun up and taking over different items that we didn't anticipate as we shared information with them. And additionally on the monthly service as well. That pretty much covers the project. Happy to field any questions.
If I may, Richard, real briefly, I just wanted to confirm that those servers project, the 50,000, give or take, that's a one-time fee. That's just to get that up and running, right?
Correct. Thank you, LaRue. There are one-time fees for both the server project. The server project is a one-time fee entirely. And there are some one-time onboarding fees as part of the what they call Logic Care, or the monthly service, the IT service that's provided. So there are some one-time startup fees included in that.
So after initial installation of the server and the onboarding fees, we're looking at a monthly fee of approximately $4,400. That's the continual ongoing monthly fee, correct, sir?
Correct, or an annual fee of about $52,756 to provide that monthly service.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, now go ahead, Lane.
Question for you, Richard. I mean, after reading that report, quite lengthy, the initial onboarding fee, and then we have 15% contingency beyond that. Seems like to be a little bit redundant. If they're, the onboarding fee is to find out, is to bring us into compliance, and but that another 15% after, it's roughly 15% of the monthly fee, and then we have a doubling down with the contingency fee. Can you explain what that 15% above the onboarding fee would be? Some items?
Some items that they could come across as they spin up the new server, or it could be unanticipated licensing for different softwares that we're operating with, or differences in the seat count. It could be some additional software that we need to put in on our end. They did feel like their onboarding fee was pretty spot on, but just knowing that there's a lot of unseen things as you walk in and you just look at the unit, you don't see all that behind the scenes stuff with various switches and other items that, let me back up a little. Some of the switches we share between the two systems, you can format those switches to where there's like a physical separation in them, but we could see some of those switches that need to be replaced as we get into the project. So it's some hardware items like switches, things like that we could encounter as we move forward.
Yeah, I'm just saying, I'm looking at that 15% of both the data protection and the Windows Server project. And, it seems to me we've got some duplication there, but I'm not that technical expert as far as when that Windows Server project we budgeted for, when that goes in, then we still have the initial onboarding fee for the data protection and the contingency again on that. So just keep an eye on that, see where we end up. I know we have one less person now, and in that difference in that employee, this is would be a big cost savings to TTSA, and it seems like we get more cybersecurity with this, which is critically important at this state. Thank you.
And if I may add, the contingency was not requested biologically. It was something that we put in ourselves, just in case we ran across something we didn't want to wait a month as it was being installed to come back to the board and ask for an increase. We've done that with other projects as well.
Okay, can I ask where the amount of money, I know the server project's in the budget, but is the annual fee for Logic Care, is that going to be in the contractual services for IT? Is in their budget?
Yes.
Okay, and we did budget for that amount this 22 period.
Correct.
So we budgeted for $68,000.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
I have a question.
Go ahead, David.
I see nothing in their presentation about their own security. Do they have, I don't know anything about this company or sure they are. Do they present any kind of a guarantee, or do they show us that their people are reliable and secure?
We did have a meeting with them, and they did touch on security. They did make us aware that they monitor it, they're more proactive. As it comes to the detail and the level of that, can you address that, Richard? Do you recall further discussions with that?
Just so I understand, make sure I understand the question. Are you asking specifically about, like, their staff, their employees, and?
About their staff, yeah.
Yes, their staff, they do background checks on their staff. Their company provides services for some law enforcement in the area. So all their staff has to go through extensive background checks.
That's what I was asking. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Blake.
Two questions. The first one, it looks like we sole sourced logically for this project. I'm just wondering, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of firms out there that provide similar services, and what the basis for sole sourcing logically was.
Would you like to take that?
We received a recommendation, or one of the local agencies is using them, and they gave us a good review of their services. That was the main reason we went directly with Logically.
Yeah, North Tahoe PUD is currently using them and is satisfied, very satisfied with that product they present.
Lane, so they've been using them for a number of years, and gave them a go.
I can't speak to how many years. All I knew is they're satisfied with their service they're provided.
So the choice to sole source these guys was based on a strong recommendation from another local public agency. It sounds like North Tahoe PUD.
Correct.
Great. Second question is just, this is more of a nuts and bolts question. When they've got these response to, I forget what they call them, incidents or something like that, how is that going to work kind of organizationally if you know, a worker there is having trouble, you know, whether it's Jay or your staff or somebody's has an IT issue, is everybody at the staff going to have access to that portal, or is it going to be funneled through the two folks that are still sort of the IT department to ask questions there, and then logically it would only be communicated through those two guys or through you, Richard, or how is that on-call service for IT related questions going to be handled?
It's going to be a hybrid. During the normal work hours, everyone will have access to their help desk for some of the basic issues like, hey, how do I set up a printer on my computer? Those kind of things that they can walk them through over the phone. If it's after hours or a more significant issue, then we'll funnel it through the person that's going to be the project manager on our end, and they can be that first kind of filter of how important it is, and then we can ramp it up with Logically as far as that response table goes.
Okay. That's all for me.
Okay, thank you, Blake. Any other questions or comments before we award this contract? Any questions or comments from the public?
I have no hands raised for public comment on this item.
Okay, I'd like a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is that you, Dan, making the motion?
Lane made the motion, I made the second.
Okay. No further questions or comments. Roll call, please.
Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Smelser,
Yes.
Director Tresson,
Yes.
Director Lewis,
Yes.
and President Cox.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, directors, we're banging through this agenda quite rapidly. If any of you feel that I'm moving this meeting a little bit too rapidly, feel free to chime in and have me reel it in a little bit. But as long as everybody approves of the speed that we're going through this agenda, I'm going to continue on. Anybody have any problems? Okay, let's talk about the approval of the digital scanning.
Mr. Parker, do you mind addressing this item for the board of directors, please?
Yes, no problem. So as the board approved prior board meeting to advertise for the digital scanning project, we did receive one bid for the project on June 14. And that was from ProPipe for an amount of $4.56 per linear foot. Staff reviewed the bid, reviewed the lowest responsive bidder. ProPipe yielded a minor irregularity in how the bidder completed the forms, but this irregularity was clarified by the bidder during bid review. It is recommended that this irregularity be waived. The total estimated project cost at that unit cost is $178,296, slightly less than the budgeted amount of $180,000. The recommendation before the board today is management and staff recommend approval to award the 2021 digital scanning of sewer lines project to ProPipe in the amount of $4.56 per linear foot.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, Jay, I had a question for you with regards to last year on the Schedule 5. What was the inability of the contractor to finish a job?
So there were two parts to the job. Part one is the field work, and part two is the office work to stitch all the field work together. They were able to complete the field work with the exception of this one stretch between these two manholes, manhole 100 to 104. So that was not an account of them. That was because of debris in the line, and maintenance is working to clear that for this year. Their inability to perform the rest of the work stems from the office, their inability so far to put together the deliverable for us, the software that allows us to see their results.
When you talk about inability with regards to, debris in the line, I mean, wouldn't you be on that immediately?
So the camera view showed that it was not anything that was blocking flow. It was enough to get the tire stuck, so that they couldn't proceed further. And Richard has been working with a cleaning contractor to get this section cleaned. There's a possibility it could be because of the contractor's equipment. Our prior contractors, ProPipe, who bid this year, have not had a problem with their equipment getting through all our various sections. This was a new contractor that had different equipment, so there could have been an equipment related issue. But if it was debris, Richard, do you want to give a status update on the cleaning?
Sure. Cleaning this section has some challenges due to the stretches of the manhole. So we've had two different cleaning contractors come out and take a look to see if they have the equipment to be able to shoot the distance. So that's where we're at with that. We have one who does have the ability to do it. So we're working on getting that out so we can get a PO issued to them to do the work. As Jay mentioned, the debris that's in there is heavy debris. So it's some rocks and appears to be rocks and gravel that are on the bottom. So that's not impeding flow or risking flow at all at this time.
Good, thank you.
Yep, you're welcome.
Jay, it's Blake. So ProPipe, just to be clear, ProPipe is the contractor the agency has used a number of years, but not last year. Last year was the first year we'd used an alternative contractor, and now we're back to ProPipe, and historically ProPipe has been able to perform on their contract work.
That's correct. It may have been as many as 7 or 8 years of ProPipe has been working with us to deliver successfully for this project, and last year's contractor was not ProPipe.
And Jay, the 456 per linear foot, is that a significant increase? Are we seeing inflation or just CPI kind of on that, or is that?
It's about what we anticipated. It's, yeah, just costs. We're seeing costs increase for CPI. We did not see on this job, thankfully, a major jump like we've seen on what possibly could be COVID-related increases. This came in pretty close to what we were anticipating.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Blake? Anything?
No
Okay,
further
I got a
questions.
question, either for Jay or Richard or even LaRue. It's obvious that we are continually monitoring the integrity of the TRI. It appears that this is going to go on for a couple of years here with the filming. Are these films or these images on file here at the agency so we can review from year to year what's going on inside that TRI?
Yes, they are. Every year.
Okay, the second question is, as far as the rest of the system, mainly, let's say from the beginning of the Taos City conception of the TRI all the way to maybe Meeks Bay, maybe as far as our system goes, is it up to the jurisdictional agencies to monitor that line or the lines that are out there in addition to the TRI? Who's keeping track of this?
So as far as who's keeping track of the stretch between Taos City and Meeks Bay, that would be Taos City PUD. The agency starts our inspections at the top of the Truckee River Interceptor, which starts in Taos City and flows downstream along the Truckee River. Dan, I don't know if you have any information on Taos City PUD's inspections.
Yeah, you're correct, Jay. The Taos City PUD does routine inspections on all of our sewer lines, including the main that runs up the West Shore. And then we also, Taos City PUD has an agreement with North Tahoe PUD, whereby the Taos City PUD does the maintenance and the video work on the jointly owned section of sewer line between the Truckee River Interceptor and Dollar Hill. That section of sewer main is used by both North Tahoe PUD and Taos City PUD, but it happens to be within the Taos City PUD service area. And then I know North Tahoe PUD also has a ongoing inspection program of their sewer lines within their district. Lane would know more about that than I do.
Yes, that's correct, Dan.
So basically, the member districts are taking care of the integrity and imagery of the sewer lines within their jurisdiction. And are they sharing any of this information with us, Jay, or is this strictly up to the member agency?
Historically, they have not shared that information with us. So yeah, the answer is no, we don't have that information.
Okay. No further questions?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything secret about the information. I think if TTSA wanted to get that information and review it for whatever purposes, it would be made available. I'm just not sure that TTSA has felt that it was their responsibility to keep track of the member district sewer infrastructure. I think they've always relied on the member districts to take care of that.
Okay, that's right. If there's no further questions or comments in regards to the scanning of the sewer line project, we are about to approve resolution just to award the screening to ProPipe in the amount of $4.56 a square linear foot.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, it's been made by Director Lewis, seconded by Director Smeltzer. No further comments from the public. Rochelle,
No public comment.
roll call, please.
Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Smelser,
Yes.
Director Tresson,
Yes.
Director Lewis,
Yes.
and President Cox.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, let's talk about where we're headed with these board meetings.
Thanks, President Cox. Item 13 is a discussion on returning to in-person board director meetings. As you guys are aware, the agency has opened back up. State of California has lifted its blueprint for a safety economy. And staff would like to get direction on how the board of directors would like to proceed returning back to in-person meetings, if at all. Current options right now are to do what we're currently doing, which is the Zoom platform, return to in-person meetings or potentially a hybrid. So I wanted to have the discussion, receive direction from the board of directors so staff knows how to proceed.
Okay, Director Lewis, comments?
Well, I mean, we have to go with one or the other, right? A Zoom meeting or in person. Is that correct?
At this point, those are the two options we have to immediately implement. Yes, sir.
Okay. As far as right now in the situation, I think we'd be fine to go back to a full regular board meeting as long as and televise like we did before, our public access so people can watch our meetings on the computer.
Yeah, and to clarify, it's not televised live. What we do is we film the meetings, and then after the conclusion of the meetings, we will put it on our website for public access.
Correct. Okay.
And that is what we've done prior to COVID. Yes.
Okay, Director Wilkins?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I will note that I'm going to be out of town on August 18th, so I will miss that meeting. But I'm fine if we want to go back to in-person meetings starting in August. And I would just not be able to attend that August meeting, but I would be at all subsequent meetings.
Okay, Director Tucson?
Yeah, the current time I would approve or be okay with going with a in-person meeting. But if, and there seems to be a lot of in the news about reinstating mandatory face coverings in public settings for both vaccinated and unvaccinated people. And if Cal OSHA or the state reinstates a mandatory mask wearing that would require, both all staff, board members, and the public at the meeting to be wearing face coverings, and you get that information with adequate time prior to agendizing the meeting, I would recommend that we go to Zoom, assuming we have time to do that. I'm hopeful that that's not the direction we're headed, and that in August we'll still be under the current mask mandates. But if there is a change with LaRue, I'd recommend that we go back to a Zoom meeting for August.
Okay, understood. I would agree. Yeah, what it says, right now we're allowed to attend these meetings without a mask for those who are vaccinated. If the state board comes back, if the state or college comes back and says vaccination status, whether you have it or not, you are required to have a mask. He's stating that we return to a Zoom platform. So, and if there's enough time for that. So right now, what the feedback I'm getting prior to hearing yours is that we implement the in-person meeting on August 18th and continue with the in-person meetings until there's some notification or where the state implies or demands us to wear masks. And if that's the case, then we would return to the Zoom platform until the mask is mandated. It's really the driver is a mask. I think I assessed that correctly, Blake.
Yeah, and likely at that same time, they're probably, if, again, I'm hopeful this is not the case, and I don't want to be the doom and gloom guy, but, that likely that they might start reinstating physical distancing. So clearly, if there was a physical distancing mandate again, I think we go to Zoom for sure.
So I think we just proceed, if you guys agree, proceed, feedback I'm getting is with the in-person meeting. And then take it meeting for meeting, and based on the restrictions coming back, then we'll make changes.
You okay with that, David?
Well, I'm more, what Alpine's doing is a hybrid meeting where the board members show up. See, I've got my map. But we show up and the public is zoomed in. And that seemed to work okay for us. We had a lot of input the last meeting from outside. And there wasn't any problem with it. So I prefer that just with what's going on. We're getting back into the new sequence of this COVID, so I'm paranoid, but I would prefer a hybrid meeting. I like the idea of in person with the board, but I don't know who's walking in here, from the public, so.
So you're stating in person for the board of directors as it pertains to the public attendance.
Via Zoom.
Via Zoom, so it's your preferred method.
That's my preference.
I'm pretty much open to whatever everybody else wants, but I feel the way we're conducting our meetings right now, with the platform that we have been engaging in here over the last few months, I think that it's working quite well. The public has a chance to contribute into our meetings, and I feel that what we're dealing with right now at this time with a hybrid meeting where if you choose to sit back and be here at the board meeting, that works. But the platform that we've got going on right now, I feel is working very well. I was very skeptical at the get-go of how this was going to work out, but I'm very satisfied with how we're conducting the business on behalf of the taxpayers, and I'm open to what everybody else sees fit. I'm able to roll with the punches. So, Lane, you got another comment?
Yeah, I got another question, comment with regards to Dan's comment. He could still attend the meeting via telephone like we've done in the past. And if there is a board of directors, if there is a director that's not feeling good or whatever, he could still communicate and be present to the board through the telephone communication that we did previously. So that's always an option. I mean, if you're Dan, if you're leaving next month and you want to attend the meetings, you can do it like we did in the past.
Okay, with that being said, I think what Blake had mentioned might be the best platform for us to continue on, and that is let's roll with the punches, see what Cal OSHA mandates, see how this new variant, what it does with the state of California and how it will impact us. I'm open. Like I say, what we're doing right now, we're conducting business. It's working very well. And LaRue, where do you want to head?
I think I have direction here. Seems the consensus overall, or at least the majority, is that we proceed with the in-person meeting. And we'll monitor it. It'll commence at the August meeting. And should there be any changes to the mask mandate or the spacing mandate, we'll shift right over back to Zoom. And I get that from account on feedback from Blake, Dan, and Lane. You seem to be neutral. And David, you have a preference as well. So if that's the direction I'm interpreting, if that's correct, then that's how I'll proceed.
Sounds good. Go ahead, Lane.
Yeah, Dick, are we in compliance by doing it that way now?
Yes, you are. The current Brown Act special rules that allow this type of video conference meeting expires at the end of September. Certainly, as Blake indicates, the rules could change again between now and then. But as of today, starting end of September, we revert back to the usual Brown Act rules. But in the
Okay.
meantime, between now and the end of September, you've got the option of continuing status quo or returning to in-person.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so ordered. Before we move on to the management reports, if it's all right with the rest of the board, Rochelle, in public comment, Jane Davis's comments were not audible to the board. And what I'd like to do, if it's okay with the rest of the board, is to direct you to contact Jane Davis, give her comments so that they can be entered into the record and will be made available to the public. Is that okay with you, Rochelle?
Just to clarify, what you're asking, Rochelle, is to potentially, well, actually, I see Jane Davis on the meeting right now. What she can do is reach out to Rochelle between sometime today or the next few days and provide comments that she was going to say verbally, and then Rochelle can pass them on to the board of directors.
That's exactly right. I want to make sure that Jane Davis's comments are received at the board level and are entered into the record. Rochelle?
Sorry, I was muted. I was just going to refer to Dick, since we've already passed the public comment. But after the department reports, should she still be on and want to make a public comment at that time, she should be able
To
to.
be clear, my interpretation isn't that she makes public comment at the meeting now, that the agenda item is passed. What
Right.
is asking is that she is more than welcome to submit her public comment to you, and you then afterwards provide that to the board of directors. Is that correct?
That's correct. If she has taken the time to try to make public comment and there was some kind of an audio problem that the board was not able to hear her public comment, I want to make sure that her comments are received by the board and that are entered into the record.
Sure.
Is that okay, Shanahan?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Are you okay with that, Rochelle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anybody have any problem with that? Okay, let's move on to the management reports.
Mr. Peak, would you like to proceed?
Good morning, President Cox, Board of Directors. The Operations Department report for June. All plant waste discharge requirements were met for the month. Overall, the plant performed well. Staff performed iron sponge inspection and media replacement. Cleaned and inspected the centrifuge feed and centrate tanks. Continued to work in partnership with maintenance and engineering departments on plant improvement projects. Well 31 pH sample read 6.6 for the month. Operations continues to add caustic to the final effluent to maintain a 7.0 pH set point. Operations work orders completed for the month of June was 4 pending. For the laboratory, staff performed necessary laboratory testing per WDR requirements and operational needs for the month. Significant SOP revisions are continuing. The laboratory department did select a third-party assessment service. Performing annual PT study. Staff continue to train remaining operators for weekend testing and will be completing the DOCs. The new laboratory director continues to assess lab testing and evaluate administrative and analytical laboratory SOP needs. Laboratory corrective actions for the month of June, there was 2 completed and 4 pending. So a total of 6 corrective actions were established last month. Any questions or comments for the operations department? Yes, Lane.
Yeah, last month, Michael, I asked you as far as the flow meters at Dollar Hill, and when was the last time they were calibrated? And a couple board from North Tahoe PD asked what you commented that we used an outside service. They were done in April, and they need calibration. Is that correct?
Yep. I'm sorry, I missed the last part of that. You're kind of cutting in and out a little bit.
Oh, okay. you reported back to me at the last board meeting that the flow meter at Dollar Hill was calibrated last in April of 21, and that there was no adjustment to that flow meter. Is that correct?
I believe it was Richard that reported that last
Okay.
month. But yes, if I remember correctly, that was what was reported. It was calibrated in April and there was no adjustments needed.
Okay, the directors asked the further question was, prior to that, how often was that being calibrated? And my question is state wastewater discharge requirements being met? Or does the state know what we're doing as far as our calibrations with regards to our flow meters? And how do we know that the flows, during those years, that if it wasn't calibrated, are correct from Dollar Hill to Ramparts?
So if I understand the question, to give clarification, that we do report all flows monthly to Lahontan, the Regional Wastewater Control Board, and we do semi-annual, twice a year, we do calibrations to flow meters that are directly go into the TRI. And those reports are all given to Lahontan. So we've been in compliance with Lahontan as far as all our reporting requirements, as far as we're concerned, over the years.
Okay, I mean, but was there any calibration on, for 10 years prior to that?
Again, that I know of, I think, Richard, did you go back into the records and did you find any calibration records for Dollar Hill prior?
Yeah, I've looked at some of the historical documents that we have here, and the dates go way back before when there was calibrations done, and then there was a large period of time from roughly 2000 to current that there was no calibrations done at that station. At least we don't have any documents for it.
Okay.
Director Lane.
But still, we are in compliance with our WDR, and we report all our results and all our flows to Lahontan.
And that's been adequate as far as the discharge requirements from Lahontan?
Yes.
Okay.
Director Lewis, if this is related to a concern from North Tahoe as it pertains to their flow rates for billing purposes, the WDRs do not state who has to perform these. They just have to be performed and provided with the documentation. If you would like, I can go ahead and reach out to the general manager at North Tahoe and ask if they would like to perform these calibrations moving forward. As long as we receive that documentation, we can forward that to the state board. The state board's been abreast of all these operations we've been doing. This has been done since 2002. I just wanted to make sure that some of the feedback you're receiving, if that's the driver, I'm more than willing to reach out to the GM there and see if that's a solution that would be acceptable for you.
Well, you can, but what's the standard operating procedures going forward is every 6 months. Is that correct?
Most definitely. We do have a plan for that.
Okay. I mean, you can certainly find out from Brad Johnson at North Tahoe PD what he would like, if any difference from what we currently do.
Yeah, I think we would still have the same result. We still have a calibrated meter.
Right,
But
exactly.
I'll reach out to him and see if that's something he'd like to partake in.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving forward.
I think
Blake, go ahead.
Hey, Mike, a couple questions. One, indicated you've selected a third-party assessment service. I have no idea what that means. Is that an annual thing that we do every year, or is this a one-time assessment?
I may have to have Jason jump in real quick, but it's in order to maintain our FOTs, field of testing for lab. You have to have an assessment, and it's a stipulation that in order to keep our FOTs up and current, that we have this third-party assessment. So they come in and they make sure that we're the quality of our lab data is up to speed, and any shortcomings we have, they would kind of point out, and we can make corrections to those so that we can make sure that we're getting quality data out of the lab. Jason, do you want to elaborate on that at all?
That pretty well sums it up. It's just a regulatory requirement for ELAP that we have an on-site assessment at least once every 2 years. And historically, the state would actually take care of those, but they have formed a partnership with a number of companies that specialize in assessment. And they've given us the options of scheduling that with a third-party assessor. And given some time constraints, it made a lot more sense for us to use a third-party assessor in this case. And going forward, we probably will continue that every 2 years.
And this is a requirement for all ELAP certified labs. This isn't specific to TTSA.
Correct.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Mike. Just following up, the next bullet talked about performing annual PT study. I don't know what PT stands for.
So that's annual proficiency testing.
Okay.
It's the study that the lab has to do in order to qualify that the results that they're producing on their analytics are accurate.
Okay. And again, that's a ELAP requirement for all wastewater labs.
Yes.
Try not to go on too long. Third question was just, I'm wondering, with the prolonged heat that we've had, whether you guys, I don't see temperature as a parameter that you give, but whether you're seeing increased temperatures and whether that's changing any of the sort of plant operations, kinetics and stuff like that with, I can't remember ever seeing a month where the highs never went below 80 and, even up into the high 90s.
Yes, we have experienced that, and we have seen increased temperatures. In some ways it helps the processes, some of the processes, in other ways it hinders them. So we have been addressing that as best we can. It definitely doesn't help Nocardia growth in our activated sludge system when it's warmer like this, and we've been struggling to try to keep it under control. So for this month, for the month of July, but we're doing the best we can. And so we have seen some impacts. But then BNR seems to work really well because the microbes there like the warmer water, I believe. So, so pros and cons, but yeah.
And thanks, Mike. Yeah, I would assume the biological system would be impacted by these high temps. And then the last one is just, I don't know that you could address briefly, the concerns that Pippin raised regarding this grab sample and non-random samples, and just confirm that hopefully we're in total compliance with Lahontan and, just what happened there. And
yes, so we are in total compliance with Lahontan, and honestly, really not a lot else to say other than we actually, Jason, do you wanna kind of give your input on that since you were directly involved in the sampling?
Yeah, so it's been my experience that if there is some kind of an issue within the plant, it's perfectly normal to get more samples than compliance requirement. The one stipulation on my side as the laboratory representative is that anyone requesting any additional sampling understands that everything, regardless of its impact on compliance, gets reported. And then, of course, I have to make sure that all data is supported by quality control and documentation, all that stuff. But as far as repeat sampling and random, I've looked back in the records, and it appears that sampling has been done around the same time of the day for as long as I can see back. So I don't know. I don't know that there was ever an effort to be random. So I'm not entirely sure how to comment on that. But as far as the laboratory goes, repeat sampling is not out of the questions so long as it's with the understanding that it's all getting reported.
So I take it you got a high coliform sample, but that was connected to some sort of discrete activity operationally that resulted in that was very temporary, and that Lawton says, you know, instead of that being a true representative sample, you're allowed to do another series of samples to, you know, whatever, show that wasn't a representative sample during that time period. Is that how it plays out, or?
Well, actually, to clarify it a little bit further, when we grabbed the first sample was grabbed, we had a low chlorine residual due to maintenance to one of the chlorinators. And due to that low chlorine residual, not knowing what the results of that sample were for coliform results, we asked the lab to then later in the day, grab another sample that would be more representative of what our effluent was with a chlorine residual, a more normal chlorine residual when there was no maintenance activity done on the chlorinator. So just to make it clear, we did not know what the results of that first sample were going to be when we grabbed the second one. Okay. So we didn't grab a second one to try to manipulate any kind of outcome. We just wanted to make sure we had a good representation of what the effluent was for the day.
Thanks, Mike. That good point to be made. Didn't realize that.
And I think your assessment, Blake, how you summarized it is correct. Could you confirm that, Jason?
Thanks for that explanation, Mike and Jason. No other questions?
Any other questions for the operations department?
Seeing none, hearing none. Let's see what's going on with Richard.
Morning again, President Cox and board. So maintenance continued to provide support for digester upgrade project, chiller replacement, and the plant coating project that's taken place. Want to highlight that we do have the phase 2 of the defensible space coming up here next month in August. That work's scheduled. So more to come on that. We'll get some before and after pictures for the board. We did have some high priority work orders come in throughout the month. We had LEL, or lower explosive limit monitoring system on the O2 basins. We had a failure there that we had to respond to. Some plugging of a digester transfer pump. So we fabricated up a flushing connection for operations to be able to flush out the debris and continue to pump without any other issues. Then we had a cake conveyor in the dewatering building, lost a bearing and then destroyed the end of the shafts, the end of the screws. So we had to cut it off and modify it while we have a new one on order. Now that IT's under the maintenance department, they were working on some HMI modifications for the chlorine PHA that had taken place. As far as work orders go for the month, mechanical completed 40. We had 1 in fleet, 40 in instrumentation and electrical and instrumentation, and 15 in IT. With mechanical, we got 125 as a backlog, with 26 in fleet, 48 in electrical and instrumentation. I wanted to note on the IT one, you see it's 270. Many of those are done. We just, with the transition, we need to go in and do some cleanup on that. So you'll see that number drop for next month. Any questions or comments that I can field?
Anyone?
Yes.
Go ahead, Lane.
Yeah, Richard. With regards, we recognize that Dean Hayes in the, for making a list of equipment not in compliance. Any major issue, any new items of major consequence that he brought up that we need to be aware of as far as equipment needing to be in compliance?
And I'm assuming that's referencing the safety suggestion that he put in?
Correct.
Yeah, so that falls under NFPA 820. I'm in the process of reviewing that with Mike Smith, our safety guy. So far, nothing. The driver for that safety suggestion were actually two that we came across as we were doing some routine motor replacements within the facility. One initially looked to be out of compliance, but after working with the supplier and manufacturer of those motors, it was determined that they were in compliance. So we did have one that we found that throughout the years in a primary clarifier had gotten changed out with a non-compliant motor, which has been rectified. But no other, we don't know of any others that are as glaringly obvious as those two, but we are looking at doing an audit throughout the facility and finding out. But part of that is figuring out which specific classifications exist in which areas. So we're kind of systematically going to go through and do that. So more to come.
Okay, so I mean, you're on it as far as the California Air Carb requirements and stuff like that, as far as what will be going out of compliance in a period of time so we can make the necessary budget adjustments for replacement.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Richard? Seeing none, hearing none. Jay, you're on.
Good morning again, directors. Feels like summer. We've got a lot going on. Month of June, we perform work on each of those projects listed on my report. We have some photographs at the back of some ongoing projects for specifically the Headworks project, which has been ongoing for a couple months now. The plant painting project, which is kicking into higher gear, and the chiller replacement project, which is nearly complete. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has about any of these projects.
Seeing none, hearing none. Thank you, Jay.
You're welcome.
Crystal?
Yes, sir. I guess hello again. I feel like I've been talking a lot in the past 2 meetings. So in the accounting department, for the accounting area, we have finalized the budget with management and staff. We coordinated with human resources for the salary schedule and updates related to the cost of living increases. We're beginning the pre-audit preparation for fiscal year end FY21. And then we finalized the RFP process and selected an audit firm. In the billing department, I was able to pull some information together for you guys. I believe it was Blake's question on repeat and what the majority of the folks are that are delinquent. And if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and share that information with you guys right now. So in total, there's 18 delinquencies, 4 restaurants, 8 residentials, 4 commercials, 1 funeral home, and 1 workforce housing. From a dollar perspective, percentage-wise, it is 38% restaurants, 8% residential, 41% commercial, 4% funeral home, and 9% workforce housing. 2 of them are repeat offenders, 1 in each county. That would be the funeral home and the one of the commercial ones. I don't have the details on that, like which commercial property that is. And then one of them is actually in a payment plan, but that is not one of the delinquent offenders. Do you have any questions on that? Did that answer your question, Blake?
Thanks, Crystal. Yeah, that was great.
Celeste is able to pull that together for me really quick. And then of note, in the billing customer service department, we have finished the COVID relief program. It ended June 30th, 2021. We had 4,000 in the month of June, and then a total of $208,644.09 of COVID relief for the entire program. That is it. Does anybody have any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you, Crystal. General Manager.
I just gotta have a couple items to bring up in the GM report. The agency is back open, as you're aware. majority, if not all staff, have transitioned back to working on site. Those that are still dealing with issues as it pertains to daycare and other matters as they transition back, we're still working with them and allowing them to telework. We are still in the recruitment phase for an engineer, maintenance mechanic, and the wastewater treatment plant operator. As I understand it, we are close to finalizing the engineer. So I think that's concluded. We're getting ready to have that individual be vetted out and to start with us shortly. I just wanted to bring some attention for some of the hard work that's been done for the past month. First, let's talk about Crystal and Michelle. I want to let you be aware that they had to pull a lot together since the last board meeting. Done a lot of work to bring in the budgets, finalize, address all those questions, make recent changes, deal with end of year amounts, as well as having to contend with the vetting services for the audit services for the proposals there. I wanted to acknowledge again Celeste's work for taking on the COVID relief program. Again, she's done that solely on her own, so thank you for her to that. We've had some changes for the IT department. They've had to make some adjustments. They've done that great and great attitude and been able to move into that transition real smooth. And finally, I wanted to bring attention that I wanted to give us some praise to the IT and the IE departments for their work for the boardroom. We've had to sync in the other TV, do some work for the cameras for the upcoming board meeting. So thank you and acknowledgement for that. Other than that, I really have nothing else in the manager's report. So.
Any questions for the general manager? Any comments? Okay, this concludes our management reports. Is there any comments from the public on any of the previous reports?
Yes, we have public comment from Pippin Mater. Go ahead, Pippin.
Thanks, guys. I just wanted to kind of like ask a couple of clarifying questions, mostly about this violation is high chlorine. You know, it sounds like there was or low chlorine rather, high NPN. I guess there was a sort of an interesting, strange situation there where maintenance related things resulted in there being no chlorine in the effluent. And I guess that was I heard that and I thought like that's a little concerning, and that it happened to occur when there was a sample pulled this time. But how often does that same maintenance occur? How many other times has that happened where there wasn't chlorine in the effluent? And sort of what's the duration of those occurrences? Because it seems like, disinfecting the effluent is a central part of what a wastewater treatment plant does. So I'd be interested in understanding more completely what's happening there, both on this event and bigger picture, how often this type of thing happens when a sample isn't actually pulled so we don't become aware of it. Thanks.
Thank you, Pippin.
You want us to start addressing public comments and details to that level? And because I can state that whenever there's a violation that is brought to the board's attention, I don't know how much detail we need to provide our daily operations based on public comments. I'll defer that to you.
I think that as far as for any public comment in regards to the operations, I would leave it up to Michael and you to address. Is that all right with the rest of the board members? I really like to sit back. Go ahead, Dan.
My suggestion, Dale, is that if any of the 5 board members are interested in having that question answered as part of the board meeting, we should make that request. If we're not, and we're comfortable with either following up after the board meeting or not, then we handle it that way rather than leave LaRue and Mike to decide whether to jump in or not.
Okay, that's fair. Okay.
And so on that, I would be curious, Mike, if you could give us some information on how frequently the maintenance on the chlorine equipment happens.
I'll bring you that information back next month. Let me do a little bit of review. I mean, it's not that often, but I'll get you some more precise numbers.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments in regards to where we are thus far? Anyone? Let's move on to director's comments. Director Smeltzer, any comments?
I'm good.
Wilkins,
I'm good.
Blake?
Nothing from me at this time. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, how about you, Lane?
Just a great job in finally getting that retirement program going. That's been a long ordeal, and same with the audit. 30 years now, we got new eyes looking at us. It's all good.
Okay, if there's no further director's comments, I'd like to adjourn for 5 minutes before we move to closed session. Is that all right?
Do that. We could adjourn.
Okay. All right, so we can turn the tape off, and we'll be back in 5 minutes for our closed session agenda items.